Hello there, my name is Beth Gaff and I'm the Media Literacy Coordinator here at the Peabody Public Library. And first off, I want to let you know that this class is geared to go at your pace, which means that you can stop this, minimize this, go away from this, come back to this at any point in time. I do realize some of these classes get a tad bit long and a full setting is kind of a complete day. So being able to back away from this and come back to it another time definitely will help you with studying and gaining the knowledge. I also want to remind you about the Computer ClassPass Incentive Program. If you are a part of this, then you know that you need to be listening for your secret code within this class, and that would get you on your way to some prizes and such. If you're not familiar with the Computer ClassPass Incentive Program, please get in contact with me, and my information is listed here for you so that I can get you started on this and get you on your way. This is a very basic class for Microsoft Access, so we're not going to be getting into a lot of deep stuff, but we are going to be creating a database today. So I want to welcome you to Microsoft Access Basic. The first thing that we need to know about Microsoft Access is what it is. And how does Microsoft Access Database work? So simply, just putting it very simply, Microsoft Access is an informational management tool that helps you store information for reference, reporting, and analysis. Microsoft Access helps you analyze large amounts of information and manage related data more efficiently than Microsoft Excel or other spreadsheet applications. So that's kind of summing up what Microsoft Access is. So how does it actually work? Microsoft Access works in the same manner as any database does, by storing related information together and letting you create connections, commonly called relationships, between different things. The relationships between two different things in Microsoft Access can be very simple, such as a contact at a customer and the customer itself, or it can be complex. So we can see here in this example where we have the sales rep, the customer, the order, and the products. The blue boxes represent the major things we're tracking in our Microsoft Access database tables. And then reports at the right show you how you can join the related information for analysis and reporting. Data is stored in Microsoft Access tables. Think of them as mini spreadsheets that store only one type of thing. A table can have many fields. Think of them as columns in your spreadsheet. Each field in the table can be set up to allow or prevent users from entering certain information. For example, you could say one field only accepts dates. Another can allow a user to enter a numeric value, while another lets you enter anything you want. Once you have your Microsoft Access fields, fields, and relationships set up, you can create data entry forms that use those tables to store your information and later create reports with the data. Microsoft Access forms are incredibly easy and fun to design with the design tool form. And you can use Microsoft Access forms to simplify data entry for users by grouping related fields together and hiding fields they don't need to enter. The Microsoft Access Command Button Wizard even helps you to create simple buttons for your forms without understanding how to create macros in Visual Basic. So we're not going to be talking too much about macros or Visual Basic in this class, but I wanted you to understand how the Microsoft Access database works and what exactly it is. So here we can have an example of what Microsoft Access is and how it works. Microsoft Access has some major components that you work with regularly when you're working with them. We're going to talk about 6 of them. There are a few more, but that's in an advanced class, so we're not going to be talking about that today. The 6 that we're going to be talking about today include your tables, the relationships, the queries, the forms, the reports, and the primary key. Later on during this class, we're going to actually be able to create our own very simple database. We're going to be doing that at the very end of class, and I will do it to where you can follow along with me and we can kind of create it together. So I just wanted you to be familiar with some of the major components of Microsoft Access, and this will definitely help you get around when you're ready to create that database. When it comes to Microsoft Access or any of the Microsoft programs, or really any kind of program, there's vocabulary words that are associated with that program. And knowing some of these vocabulary words can definitely help you when you're creating a database, or if you're working in Excel, Word, or really any kind of program that you're using. So these are some primary vocabulary words in reference to Microsoft Access. We have a database file, and that's a file that contains all objects of your database. And then you have your navigation pane. This is a listing of all the objects in your database. You have an object, which is a table, a form, a query, a report, or other item used to store and manage data in a database. We have what's called the date sheet view, the view of a table that shows you the data in each record. Like a spreadsheet, the data sheet shows you rows or records, columns, which are fields. Your field edit mode is a mode in which the insertion point displays in a selected field. Your navigation mode is a mode in which the entire field entry is highlighted in a selected field. You can sort. This is to organize data alphabetically or in a numerical order. We've got ascending. Ascending is to sort from the smallest to the largest, or from A to Z, or from 0 to 9. You've got descending, which is to sort from the largest to the smallest. So that would be from Z to A, or from 9 to 0. You have a table. That's a collection of a database fields designed to be used together. You have a data sheet. This is a grid showing the data in a table, with the field names and column headings and the records in rows beneath them. A form is a window showing the data in a table, with one records field appearing at a time in the individually labeled boxes. We have a dialog box launcher. This is a button in the bottom right corner of a group on a tab of the ribbon, which when clicked opens a dialog box or a task pane. We can preview. This is to produce a screen view of what a printed page would look like. You have a primary key. This is a field that uniquely identifies each record in a table. You have a blank database. This is a database file that does not yet contain any objects. That is, tables, queries, reports, and so on. You have a template. This is a predefined group of settings for creating a new database, including what tables will be included, what fields will be used, and so on. You have a table design view. This is a view in which you can add, edit, and delete fields from the table, change the field types and descriptions, and set a primary key. You can also do some more things in that area. You have a data type. This is the type of data that a particular field is designed to hold. Common types would include text, number, date, and memo. You have a field description. This is an optional brief comment or explanation of a field. The field description appears in the status bar at the bottom of the window when this field is selected. You have field properties. These are characteristics of a field that determine how long an entry can be, how the entry will be formatted, whether there should be a default entry, or what can be entered. For example, numbers only or valid dates only. And the last vocabulary word for this class is composite key. This is two or more fields that collectively define the primary key by a unique combination of their values. So at this time, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of brief yourself on these definitions and these words, because we're going to be talking about quite a few of these during class today, and being familiar with them is going to help you when we're ready to create that database. So go ahead right now and just kind of read through the vocabulary words. So we're going to go back to those 6 major components that we talked about a couple slides ago, and the first one was tables. The tables are the backbone and the storage container of the data entered into the database. If the tables are not set up correctly with the correct relationships, then the database may be slow, give you the wrong results, or not react the way you expect. So take a bit of time when setting up tables. Queries, forms, etc. are usually used on a table. The tables that contain data look like a table in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel spreadsheet when opened. They have columns and rows, as does a table in Microsoft Word and the Excel worksheet. Each of the columns will have a field name at the top of each of the rows, which represents a record. So we can see here in this picture, this is an example of a table, and we have our headers at the top that give us a description of what each column is. By entering in that data in our table, now we've brought our table to life. So just kind of take a look at this right now and get an idea of what a table is going to look like. Because when we start to create our database, it's going to look very similar to this. Maybe not as excessive or as large, but it's going to look very similar to this. And one thing about Access that you'll always want to remember, and I'll probably say this on each one of these component slides, is that you want to kind of set up your database prior to using it in Access. And what I mean by that is you probably want to get yourself a blank piece of paper and write down what it is exactly you want to create in your database. This is going to make the database process a lot easier for you in the long run. Instead of trying to figure it out while you're creating it, you can already have it created on paper and kind of be ahead of the game a little bit. So what we were talking about here was tables, and this is an example of a table. Just kind of take a look at it and familiarize yourself of what a table looks like and what it is for. The next component that we're going to talk about are relationships. You can't really have a table if it doesn't have any relationships with it. Now keep in mind that before you actually create your database, you're going to want to put this down on paper, because it's going to be a lot harder trying to do it in the program than having it laid out for you already so you can see it. Relationships are the bonds you build between the tables. They join tables that have associated elements. To do this, there is a field in each table which is linked to each other, and they have the same values. So here we can see that the relationships are all kind of together. And you can see how the lines are together. You have your links. So the cars are linked to the rental orders, they're linked to the employees, they're linked to the customers, and they're linked to the categories. You can see that cars is linked to everything. Your rental orders, they're pretty much linked to everything. Everything has a relationship. And in order for it to have a relationship, that's the only way it's going to work properly. And we're going to be working with relationships when we do our simple database. So just kind of take a look at what the relationships will look like when we are ready to do ours. This is just getting you familiar with relationships. The next component we're going to talk about is queries. Now keep in mind, like I've said on the other two slides, that before you're actually ready to create a database, you're going to want to put this down on paper for yourself. That way you have it all laid out and you're ready to go, and you're not in the program thinking, what do I do now? It's just a good idea to get yourself started on paper first. A query. Queries are the means of manipulating the data to display in a form or a report. Queries can sort, calculate, group, filter, join tables, update data, delete data, and etc. Their power is immense. The Microsoft Access Database query language is SQL, Structured Query Language. They need to know SQL is not required in the early stages of learning Access. Microsoft Access writes the SQL for you after you tell it what you want in the design view of the queries window. So, summing this up, queries allow you to sort your information out that you've put into your tables and such. And we're actually going to get an opportunity to see some of this in action later on when we do our simple database. But I wanted you to see how the customers and the orders and how that they are sorting them out into the query, and that's shown down below in the different fields. So just kind of familiarize yourself of what a query is going to look like and how you're going to be able to benefit from it. The next component we're going to talk about is forms. And just like I've mentioned in the other slides here, you're going to want to make sure to have your database on paper for yourself before you actually create it, because that's going to make it a lot easier for you. Forms are the primary interface through which the users of the database enter data. The person who enters the data will interact with forms regularly. The programmer can set the forms to show only the data required. By using queries, properties, macros, and FBAs, which is a Visual Basic for applications, the ability to add, edit, and delete data can also be set. Forms can be set up and developed to reflect the use they will be required for. So here we can see that this is a simple form that is showing us number 3, the employee, which is Jen Jordan, and it's giving you all of her information on a form card. So once you enter this information in, then it turns these employees into cards like this. So this is what a form is, and this is kind of an example of what forms do and how we're going to be using them later when we do our simple database. So just take a look at the forms and get yourself familiar with what they're going to look like. Another component we can talk about are reports, and we can see here that this is an employee report. Reports are the results of the manipulation of the data you have entered into the database. Unlike forms, they cannot be edited. Reports are intended to be used to output data to another device or application, a printer, a fax machine, maybe you want to send it to Word, Excel. Reports are just taking your information and the data that you have entered, and you have created a report to see that information. So you wouldn't be able to edit a report, you would only be able to see the report. But you can edit the information through forms. So a little confusing, but I think you'll understand once we do our simple database. I just wanted you to get familiar with what a report is. I don't believe we're going to be using reports for our database today, but it's a good habit to see, and maybe in the advanced access class we'll talk a little bit more about reports and forms and things along those lines. But I wanted you to be familiar of what a report is and what it would look like. The last component of Microsoft Access that we're going to talk about is the primary key. The primary key is actually a unique identifier. It's an important part of determining the fields for each table, and so you need to decide which field, if any, is suitable as a primary key. The power of a relational database is the ability to bring a lot of information together quickly. For this to work efficiently and effectively, Microsoft Access needs to be able to identify unique records. For this reason, one field or a set of fields needs to be unique. This can be a unique identification number, such as a Medicare number, an employee ID number, or a pension number. A primary key cannot contain duplicate values. A person's last name is not suitable as a primary key, as there is often more than one person with the same last name. A primary key cannot contain null values. Therefore, a field such as a phone number is not suitable, as you may not know the person's phone number when you first enter them into the database. Also, if the information contained in the primary key is likely to be altered, then it is best to avoid this field as well. If a unique identifier cannot be identified, which is more than likely, you can add a field which will automatically increase your chances, thus providing the record with a unique identifier. So as you can see, the primary key is going to be what puts the relationship, actually making it a relational database and giving you that ability to narrow it down to having it be a specific unique identifier for a certain type of field. Looks like numbers are going to be your best thing, employee numbers, ID numbers, and things along those lines. So here we can have an example of where we would find that primary key, which is in your table tools. And we're going to actually be using the primary key today when we do our simple database later. But I wanted you to be familiar of where you would find it, what it looks like, and what it is actually, what its purpose is. So just take a minute and look this over for the primary key. Now we want to get into understanding access and the different angles of access. And like I keep saying over and over and over, and I know it's probably getting annoying, but you definitely do want to make sure that you have your database kind of laid out for yourself before you get started. Because what happens when you open up Access is every time you open up Access, it automatically creates a database. Whether you've put anything in it or not, it's going to create it. So the next time you open up Access, now you're not on database 1 anymore, you're on database 2 because it automatically saves it every single time you open it up. Okay? So what we're going to talk about now is the Backstage View. The Backstage View is new in the older version of Access 2010, so that means it's somewhat new to the 2013 version. It contains commands and information that apply to an entire database, such as a compact and repair, as well as commands that were on File menu in earlier versions, such as print. So on the Backstage View, this occupies the File tab on the ribbon and contains many commands that were on the File menu in earlier versions of Access. The Backstage View also contains other commands that apply to an entire database file. When you open Access but do not open a database, you open Access with the Windows Start menu. You see the Backstage View. So here we can see what it looks like. You may have actually opened it by clicking on that icon that you may have on your home screen. You have a file that contains Excel, Word, Access, PowerPoint, Publisher, and from there you would be able to access it, or you can go to your Start menu and go to Microsoft Office and access it from there. In the Backstage View, you can create a new database, open an existing database, publish a database to the web via SharePoint server, and perform many file and database maintenance tasks. So, to create a new database, and we're actually going to get some hands-on material with this later when we create our simple database, you would start Access from the Start menu or from a shortcut, and that's what we were just talking about. And then you're going to do one of the following. You're either going to create a web database under Available Templates, click the blank web database, and we can see that here in our picture. On the right, under blank web databases, you can type a name of your database file in the file name box or use the one that is provided for you. So when you get it going, you can see to the right there, it's got a file name, that's the default, and you can actually go in and change that and make it to what you want. And then you would click on Create. The new database is created and a new table is opened in the Datesheet view. Create a new desktop database. Under Available Templates, click Blank Database. On the right, under Blank Database, type the name of your database under the file, and then you would push on Create. So that is actually how you create it, and you can do that from the Start or the Background View. The Backstage View is what they call it, but the Backstage View is under your file, and this is what's going to allow you to get into those databases. You've also got some templates, and we're going to take a look at some of those, but we're going to do that interactively together. Right now I just wanted to show you a picture of what the Backstage View looks like from your file command. So at this time, go ahead and locate your Microsoft Access, whether you have to do that from your Start menu or you can just do that from an icon straight from your desktop. Go ahead and get in there and push on Access and get yourself to this point where you can see that blank database and those templates along those lines. Go ahead and get yourself onto Access now. Just like all of the other Microsoft programs that we have done classes on in the past, or maybe you've just experienced, You're going to see now with the newer versions of 2010 version and 2013 where you've got these ribbons. And we're going to talk about these ribbons individually. The very top picture shows you all of the ribbons. You've got your file, your home, create, the external data, the database tools, and you also actually have one called table tools in Access. We already talked about file and what that command is going to do for you. The ribbon is the primary replacement for menus and toolbars and provides the main command interface in Access 2010 and 2013. One of the main advantages of the ribbon is that it consolidates in one place those tasks or entry points that used a required menus, toolbars, task panes, and other UI components to display. This way you have one place to which to look for commands instead of a multitude of places. When you open a database, the ribbon appears at the top of the main Access window where it displays the commands in the Active Command tab. So you can see here the very top picture shows you all of the different sections of the ribbon. The ribbon contains a series of command tabs that contain commands. In Access 2010, 2013, the main command tabs are the File, Home, Create, External Data, and Database Tools. Each tab contains groups of related commands, and these groups surface some of the additional new UI elements, such as the gallery, which is a new type of control that presents choices visually. The commands that are available on the ribbon also reflect the currently active object. For example, if you have a table opened in Datesheet View and you click Form on the Create tab, in the Forms group, Access creates the form based on the active table. That is, the name of the active table is entered in the new Forms record source property. Moreover, some ribbon tabs only appear in certain contexts. For example, the Design tab only appears when you have an object open in Design View. You can use keyboard shortcuts with the ribbon. All of the keyboard shortcuts from an earlier version of Access continue to work. The keyboard access system replaces the main accelerators from earlier versions of Access. This system uses small indicators with a single letter or combination of letters that appear on the ribbon when you press the Alt key. These indicators show what keyboard shortcuts activate and control underneath. So now we're going to kind of get into some of these different ribbons. So on your home ribbon, you can select a different view. You can copy and paste from the clipboard. You can set the current font characteristics. You can set the current font alignment, apply rich text formatting to a memo field, work with records such as refresh, new, save, delete, total, spelling, and more. You can sort and filter records, and you can find records. And that is that second picture from the top there. You can see I've got it circled. Home tab shows you everything that is on the Home tab. On the Create tab, you can create a new blank table. You can create a new table using table templates. You can create a list on SharePoint site and a table in the current database that links to the newly created list. You can create a new blank table in Design View. Create a new form based on the active table or query. You can create a new pivot table or chart. You can create a new report based on the active table or query. And you can create a new query macro module or class module. We're not going to be talking too much about those in this class today, but you can see that Create tab. That's where that form is that we've already talked about today. We've also talked about the wizard and the queries. So you're going to find all of those and creating that table all under Create. Your external data. This imports links to the external data. You can export data, collect and update data via email, create saved imports and saved exports, and you can run the linked table manager. So you have quite a few options you've got with the external data, and we can see it there. The database tools, you can move some or all parts of your database to a new or an existing SharePoint site. You can launch the Visual Basic Editor or run a macro. You can create and view table relationships, show and hide object dependencies, run the database documenter or analyze performance, move data to Microsoft SQL Server or to an Access Tables Only database. You can manage Access add-ins, and you can create or edit a Visual Basic for Applications, which is a VBA module. So there you go. These are your main tabs, and of course once you have a table in there, now you have a tables tool, and we see a picture of that. That's our yellow tool, and that gives you even more options, being able to do more things with your tables tool. So we're going to talk more about that in the next slide, but here you can see that these are your primary ones. You've got Home, File, Home, Create, External Data, and Database Tools. So go ahead right now and just click on your tab headings and get yourself into these different ribbons and take a look at all the different options that you have available. I wanted to show you, well, since we're trying to understand Access today, I wanted to show you those special tabs on the ribbon. And we talked a little bit about this in the slide before, but I wanted you to be a little bit more familiar with it. And this is your Table Tools tab, and it actually has two tabs affiliated with it. You've got your fields and you've got your table. The fields are going to allow you to go in and change some of those captions. You can default the value, you can change the size, maybe you want to modify it a tad bit, add some yes and no, date and time, currency, numbers, text, maybe you want to change the view. You would do all of that from the fields, and again, you have to be on a table to do it. This is only going to work for you once you've created a table in the table. So then when you go to the table, here's where you're going to be able to do some of those properties before the event, after the event. You're also going to build those relationships and so forth, so they all kind of link together. So there's some dependencies together. So I just wanted you to be familiar with the special tabs, because you are going to be seeing this as we continue with understanding Access and doing our simple database later on in class today. I just wanted you to be familiar with this before we actually get into it.
All right, so we have been talking about a lot of stuff so far, and I just want to kind of bring you up to date on what we've been talking about. I've gone ahead and opened up my Access, and I'm in it now, so I can kind of show you what it's going to look like. Right now we're going to talk about how to hide your ribbon once you get in there. So the first thing you're going to want to do is click on this blank database. And this gets us into where our ribbons are, and we have already talked about those: our Home tab, our Create, our External Data, our Database, that Table Tools that has our fields, and our table. But now we want to talk about how can we get rid of the ribbons. So sometimes you might need a little more space to devote to your work area. For that reason, the ribbon can be collapsed so that only the bar with the command tabs remains. To hide the ribbon, you would just double click the active command tab. To show it again, you double click the active command tab again. So up here we have this little arrow here, and this allows you to show it only in the tab names or the ribbon, or you can minimize it. So if we push it, it goes away. If we push it again, it comes back. So this is how you can hide your ribbon, so you can do more work and you don't have to worry about them getting in your way. Now if I push on them, they will actually go on top of my database, and that's going to make it really hard for me to see. So if I actually come in here and double click, now I've got all of them. So if I just click, it's going to take it away. If I bring it back, it brings it back down. If I double click, now I see that it's up here, but I can see that it's coming down. So I'm going to want to make it where I can see my tab. So that is how you hide your tab, and it's primarily right up in here. Oops. Right up in here in this command arrow. So why don't you right now go ahead and minimize this video and get in there and try to go ahead and minimize those ribbons for yourself.
If you're a part of the Computer ClassPass Incentive Program, your secret code is, I have access to access. Get me that secret code either by coming in, emailing me, or calling me. That way I can get you marked down for taking the class and you'll be on your way to prizes. More about understanding access is understanding your quick access toolbar. And the quick access toolbar is a toolbar adjacent to the ribbon that allows one-click access to commands. The default set of commands includes save, undo, and redo. And you can customize your quick access toolbar to include other commands that you use often. You can also modify the placement of the toolbar and change it from the default small size to large size. The small toolbar appears next to the command tabs on the ribbon. When you switch to the large size, the toolbar appears below the ribbon and extends its full width. So here you can see I've got the very first picture at the top. It's just a strip. There's no arrows to it or anything. It is showing you how to access that quick access toolbar. And it's going to be that arrow with or a little pyramid, upside down triangle with a line over it. And we can see that in the second picture, and it's drawn us an arrow to what it looks like. And by pushing it, we can see that it's defaulted to save, undo, and redo. All of the commands that are listed there can be what we can add, or we can go into the more commands and we can add other features. So to customize your quick access toolbar, you would click the rightmost drop-down arrow in that toolbar, which is indicated there by the brown arrow. Under Customize Quick Access Toolbar, click the command that you want to add and you are done. Or if the command is not listed, you can click More Commands and proceed to the next step of this procedure. In the Access Options dialog box, select the command or commands that you want to add and then click Add. To remove a command, highlight it in the list on the right and then click Remove. Alternately, double-click the command in the list. Click OK when you are done. So that bottom picture, it says after adding more to the quick access, you will see it appear. I've actually added the quick print, and you can see the printer there, the print preview that gives us that page. So that is how you add them, and then you just click done and you're done. So go ahead right now and take a look at your quick access toolbar and see if there's anything else you may want to add to it that's going to make it very simple for you, so you don't have to get into that file tab and work with them that way. Another really important feature of Microsoft Access is going to be your navigation pane. And once we actually create a database, you're going to be able to see this come to life a lot more. When you open a database or create a new one, the names of your database objects appear in the navigation pane. The database objects include your tables, forms, reports, pages, macros, and modules. The navigation pane replaces the database window used by earlier versions of Access. If you use the database window to perform a task in the previous version, you now perform that task by using the navigation pane. For example, if you want to add a row to a table in a datasheet view, you open the table from the navigation pane. Now note, the navigation pane is not available in a web browser. To use the navigation pane with a web database, you must first open that database by using Access. So to open a database object or apply a command to a database object, you would right-click on the object and select the menu item from the context menu. The commands on the context menu vary according to the object type. Open the database object such as a table, form, or report. This is how you would do it. In the navigation pane, you would double-click the object, or in the navigation pane, select the object and then press Enter. Or in the navigation pane, you can right-click on the object and then click Open. Note that you can set an option to open objects with a single click in the navigation options dialog box. The navigation pane divides your database objects into categories, and these categories contain groups. Some categories are predefined for you, and you can also create your own custom groups. By default, the navigation pane appears when you open a database, including databases created in earlier versions of Access. You can prevent the navigation pane from appearing by default by setting a program option. The following set of steps explains how to take each action. So to show or hide the navigation pane, you would click the button in the upper right hand corner of the navigation pane. And it actually looks like a couple of arrows, and I've got them circled for you there. Or you could just press F11. F11 works as well. Prevent the navigation pane from appearing by default. You can click the File tab and then click on Options. The Access Options dialog box appears. In the left pane, you click Current Database. Under Navigation, clear the Display Navigation pane checkbox and then click OK. So that is a lot of information for the navigation pane. I wanted to give you the full explanation of what it is. We're not going to be using it that way today. I will show you when we start getting into our database and creating our simple database how you can get rid of that navigation pane and pull it back out. But I wanted you to be familiar of what it is, what it does, and how you can do some different things with it. So right now, go ahead and just take a look at the left-hand side of your database and see if you can see where that navigation pane is going to go. Another important feature for you to make sure you understand Access are going to be your tab documents. Starting with Office Access 2007, you can display your database objects in tab documents instead of overlapping windows. For everyday interactive use, you may prefer the Tab Documents interface. You can enable or disable tab documents by setting your access options. However, if you change the tabbed document settings, you must close and reopen your database for the new settings to take effect. So if you want to show or hide the document tabs, you would click on your File tab that's at the top, then click on Options. The Access Options dialog box appears. In the left pane, you would click Current Database. In the Application Options section under Document Window Options, you would select Tab Documents. Select or clear the Display Document Tabs checkbox. Clearing the checkbox turns off document tabs. Then click OK. Now there are some notes. The Display Document Tab setting is a pre-database setting. You must set this independently for each database. So just because you set it for one that way doesn't mean it'll apply to all of them. After you change the Display Document Tab settings, you must choose and reopen your database to see the change take effect. New database is created by using Access 2007 or Access 2000 and Access 2010 display document tabs by default. Database is created by using an earlier version of Access, use the overlapping windows. So as long as you're using a version 2007 or higher, it's going to look like this, and you're going to have your tabs lined up, and they're just tab documents. That pane that we were just talking about, that navigational pane that had our tables and our queries and our reports and our forms, that's what these are. These are the tabs that go along with that navigational pane. And every time you click on one of those, it creates a new tab at the top for that particular item. So I just wanted you to understand what the tab documents are and what they mean. So right now, go ahead and just take a look at your Access and see if you can see where the tab document would be on your database. Another great feature that Microsoft Access has for you that is available is being able to use that help. And the help button is so if you have a question, you can get help by clicking that question mark, or you could even just press F1 from your keyboard and it's going to pull up that middle picture there that says Access Help, and then you can put in whatever it is you're searching for. So if you're wanting to know a little bit more about queries, then you could go in there and you could type that in there. During this class, we're not going to be doing a query for our basic database, but if you want to know a little bit more about that stuff, you can do that. Or if you're just wanting to know more about what you're doing in Access, then this would be a great feature for you to use. And again, all you have to do is push that question mark. It's in the upper right hand corner of your ribbon on the Access interface. So by pushing that, it takes you to another screen, which would give you access online, and then you'd be able to type in those questions that you may have in regards to Access. So go ahead right now and minimize this video and get into your database and just kind of play around with that help feature.
Another great feature that Microsoft Access has for us are these templates, and I wanted to just kind of show you. This is all the templates that they have available, and this way you don't have to go in and actually create one from scratch. You could pick one. Let's just randomly pick one. We're going to pick on the finance and the accounting, and then go to desktop price comparison and let that load up for us. And as it's loading up, I just want to talk to you a little bit about Access and being able to use the templates. You would be able to put all of your information in this template, and it's already set up for you, so you wouldn't have to start from scratch to get it going for yourself. So we want to definitely be able to enable this content so that way we can edit it. And we can see there to the left is our navigation pane. Okay, and this is that little arrow that they were talking about. So if you wanted to go away, you would just click it and it's gone. But for now, we want to kind of pull it out because I want to show you the tab documents, what they're talking about there. So if we double click on something, now we have a tab document. This is a tab affiliated with our navigation pane. So now we have tables, queries, forms, reports, and the macros. But we're not going to be messing with macros today. So you can just click on each one and start entering in your data the way you want, and this is already set up for you, so you don't have to do anything. And I realize that this is very big, and you're probably like, what is all of this? We're going to narrow this all down for you when we do our simple database, which is coming up next. But I wanted you to be familiar with the templates and what they have to offer you. Let's say that you're in templates right now and you decide that this is not going to work for you. You need a new template. You could just go to File, click on New, and that brings you right back to that file pane. So you can go in here, or the templates, I apologize, into the templates pane, and then you can double click on a different type of template. And let's see, desktop to lending library. That's kind of appropriate for what we're talking about today. And of course we need to enable that content. And now we can see that this is what our pane has for us. And we can put in our asset and things along those lines. So this is all set up for you, ready to go with all your formulas and everything in there, and it's not from scratch. So this may not be exactly what you're looking for. And let me show you some of those things they were talking about also. By right-clicking, we can close these, and it removes the tabs from the top. So that's kind of nice. Keep in mind that any time that you do something new to one of your tabs or in your navigation pane, you want to save it, and that way you don't have to worry about any of the information that you've put in getting lost. And again, that's just right-clicking on the tab and clicking Save, or I could just hit Close. Here's my design view. It's giving me a quick access tool, so I'm able to do a little bit more with some of this. So go ahead right now and just take a look at your Microsoft Access and see how it's set up. Take a look at those templates, click on some of those templates, and get yourself familiar with the way that they're set up. All right, so now is the moment of truth. We are down to the last part of the class. You've made it up to this point. You should be a little bit more familiar with tables and queries and forms, things along those lines. Have a little bit better understanding of the interface and what your access looks like. So now we're going to create a very, very simple database. So I'm just starting from the beginning and just kind of recapping everything we've talked about. First off, we need to get into Microsoft Access, and the one way we can do that is by going in through a icon that we may have on our desktop that allows us to get into Access. By doing that, it takes us right in. Another way that we can get into Access is going down into our Start menu, clicking on All Programs, and then we can click down to where it says Microsoft Office and Access, and now we're in. So we can see that we are in Access, and today, like I was been telling you, we're going to create a very, very simple database. So we are going to start with a blank database. So let's go ahead and double click on our blank database. So that's just launching the Access. Another way that if we wanted to, we could go to File and then New, and we're right back to where we started. But we're just going to go to the Home tab and get started here. So Table 1 appears on the screen, and you can see it there to the left. Now we're going to click on where it says Click to Add. And I do realize we get a little menu, but we're just going to click out of that and get that menu to go away. And here we're going to type in to this field Mary. And then by clicking Tab, that takes us to the next field, and Smith. So right now we're just entering details for a few fictional employees. So we typed Mary, and you can either press Tab or Enter to move to the next column, and then we type Smith. Now if we press Enter twice, that's going to take us down to the next column. And here we want to go to where we've already gotten Mary, and we're going to add our next employee. And his name is Peter, and his last name is Johnson. Okay. And now we're going to go down to the next tab, and their name is Olivia. And her last name is going to be Mates. We're just going to do about 4 or 5 different employees just to kind of get us a nice little table of data going. Our next one is going to be Roger, and his last name is Lincoln. And the very, very last one to get us 5 employees here is Bridget Connors. All right, so now we have all these names. So now we need to alter the design at this point because it doesn't have any table headers so that you can use the employee ID numbers. So to make these changes, we're going to click on the View drop-down menu on the Home tab of the ribbon toolbar and select Design View. So here we have a little arrow, and we're going to click Design View. Here we're going to type employees as the table name when the Save As box comes up, and that's where we're at now. So here you're going to type employees. Go ahead and type that now. And then we're going to click OK. So now we can see that we have an employee table getting started. So once you've typed some data, you can fine-tune the design by moving to the design view, and that's where we're at now. Here we can see our primary key, and it's set here. So we're going to call this our employee number. Okay. Once in design view mode, you can type employee number in place of the ID field name. Now over here, instead of it being an auto number, we're actually going to change that to number because everybody's going to have a number. And then in the 2 fields, we want to change those to first name and last name. So this one is going to say first name, and it's going to be text, so we'll leave that there. And then we're going to make this one last name. And again, it's going to be text, so we'll just leave it like that. All right, so this is what yours should look like if you're following along with me right now. So now we need to return to the datasheet view by clicking the view and then going to datasheet view. Now, as soon as we do that, we're prompted to save the table. And yes, we definitely want to save our table. So there's our employees. So next to the employees, we're going to start typing their numbers. And we're just going to start with 2000. And his would be 2001. And hers would be, and I'm just using my mouse, and actually I can use my down arrow on my keyboard to type in these employee numbers. So now they all have an employee number. So once the table is complete, remember how I showed you how to save earlier? We're going to right click on our tab and click Save. So now it's all saved. So now we're going to create a table to contain the item information. To create a second table in which to store information about electronic devices your employees are using, select the Create tab on the ribbon toolbar and click Table. So we're going to go to Create, and then we're going to click on Table. So now you can see that we have a new table getting ready to start. So we're going to click on that, click to add, and we're going to type in T23. And we're going to press enter. And then we're going to say that this is an iPhone because we're doing an electronics table. So this is an iPhone, and we're going to press enter twice because it gets us down to the next line. And now we're going to enter in a few more. So we'll make B46, and this is going to be a tablet. And we've got D87, and I'm just randomly picking numbers. If you actually had electronic devices that you were putting in here, you probably have them labeled, so you would be using those labels instead. And maybe this is a projector. Having a problem with my caps. And then M50. And we'll say that that is a smart TV. All right. So now we've got some simple data entered into there. And now we can click on Design View because we want to label this. We're going to label this electronics. So here we'll type in electronics, and again, here we go, electronics, and we're going to click OK. Now, we have a new tab. You can see the tab document. It's called electronics. We have a new table called electronics. So here's our primary key, and remember, our primary key was our employee number. So we have to keep it the same. So that is our employee number. And now we're going to press tab. And we're going to change this to number like we did before. That way it's all the same. And now in this field, we're going to type ID code. And in this field, we're going to type description. So you're going to type ID code in the place of field 1 and description in the place of field 2. Currently, the employee number field is set to be the primary key field, and that's right here, which prevents you from entering duplicate data in that field. You'll need to change that setting so that you can enter the same employee number multiple times if that employee has several devices checked out. So here, we're going to click anywhere in the employee number field in the table and click the primary key button on the ribbon toolbar to remove the primary key setting. And we're going to click that. And now we can see that our primary key has gone away. And then we're going to return to the datasheet view by clicking View, Datasheet. And of course we're prompted to say yes to saving this table. So now we're going to come in here and type one of the employee numbers. So we started with 2000. So let's type in 2002. And then we can go down. We'll type 2000. We'll go down. We'll type 2003. And remember, these are the employee numbers that we put in earlier. So after we're done typing that, we're going to want to right click and save it. So now we need to establish a relationship between those two tables that we have. Now that we've set up those table designs, we can enter data inside of the table. So right now we're just going to close these out. And we do that by just right-clicking on there. So we saved and we closed each table by right-clicking and choosing it. And now we're going to select Data Tools tab. And that's right here. And we're going to click on the Relationships button. So now you can see that it's pulling up both of our tables. And we're going to click Add. When the Show Table dialog appears, so now we're going to, and now we're going to click on Employees, and we're going to add that as well, because we're going to need both of these. So we're going to hit close. So in order to create a relationship, we're actually going to have to drag this employee number field and drop it on top of our other employee number field in the electronics box. So now we're making a relationship. So now we want to select the enforced integrity. We want to get that going. And then we're going to click Create. So now you can see the relationship tool allows you to create the link between the two data tables. You should now see a line between the two tables with a 1 on the employee side and an infinity symbol on the electronic side. This line describes a one-to-many link. One employee can have many devices, but each device can be allocated to only one employee. So we can see that right here, the relationship that we've built between the two of them. So now we're going to create a form and view that data. So now that you have two tables linked, you can create a form that will make it easy and add employees to device. So on the ribbon on the toolbar, you're going to click on Create, and we're going to click on Form Wizard. And here's what we get when we do that. When the Form Wizard dialog appears, select Table. The employee from the Tables Query menu and click the double arrow button to add all the fields in the selected. So we are going to add in the electronics field, we are going to, first off, we need the employees field. And we're going to go ahead and enter all those over there. So now we have all three of those. And now we're going to go to the electronics field, or the table. And we already have employee numbers, so we don't need that again. But we do need the ID code and the description code. And then we're going to click Next. So this is what our box should look like. Number one, off to the left, we've got our employees and our electronics, how we want to view them, and we wanted to view them by the employees and by the electronics. And on the right hand side, we have those relationships that we built between the two of them. And we want to keep this checked, and we're going to click Next. And this is how we want to see it. We want to do it as a data sheet, and then we're going to click Next. And the default names look good, so we're going to hit Finish. And now you can see who has what. So the employee 2000, she has B46, she's got the tablet out. So your form will open on the screen and showing you details for the first employee in the employees table, as well as all the electronic devices that have been assigned to that person. You can move from one employee to the next using the navigational tool at the front of the screen. So that would be right here. These are your navigational tools, and it tells you what each person has out. And it doesn't look like Peter has anything out, but everybody else does. And that's it. We just created a very, very simple database where we can keep track of our employees that have devices. So we were able to make tables, forms. We were able to build some relationships, which we can close. Oops, we definitely want to save those changes and close. So if I'm in my electronics, okay, I could say that he's returned it, but 2000 has it now. Employee number 2000. So if I go in here, it shows you that she has the smart TV and the tablet. And we know that because there's the tablet and there's the smart TV. So it's just building a database for yourself. And again, we can navigate. We need to give him something, don't we? So let's go back to the employees. The electronic subform. Electronics is what we want. And actually, what was his employee number? 2001. So maybe we want to enter in a new one. We just say we just got a new computer in. And we want to save that. So now if we go back to our employees, oh yeah, we're going to have to update that information, aren't we? So let's go ahead and save all these and close them out. You want to make sure you save them, because if you've entered in new information, you don't want them to go away. So this is just keeping track of all of our people. Electronics. And we can scroll through those. So here's our employees. And there's that computer. So we had to save them and close out of it to actually have it do what we wanted it to do. All right, so that was the big bulk of our class, was creating this database. And again, you want to be sure to save them and close them when you're in there. But this class is over. You made it through it. You got through creating a very, very simple basic database. If you have any questions about this, please get in contact with me. I would love to assist you. But you are on your way to creating a great and fabulous Microsoft Access database. Congratulations! All right, so you did it, and I told you that in the last one. You did a great job. You've got a database going for yourself, a very simple one. But the next thing I want to teach you, or show you rather, is how you can save it. I also want to show you how to create another table, just so you're familiar with it. Right here, we're going to go up to where it says Create, and we're going to click on Table. And here we're actually going to call, this one's actually going to be like parking spots, and we'll just, let me go back. Silly me. I did not do it the right way. So we're going to go back into Access and go back in here. All right, so here's our database. So we're going to go to Create and then Table. And right here, we're just going to start making up parking spots. We'll call that one G24, and that's in the blue area. We'll call this one G15. That's also in the blue area. And maybe now we've got an F45. That's in the red area. And maybe we've got an F47. That's in another red area. And now maybe we have an H16, which is in the yellow area. And you kind of get the idea of how that works. So now we have a bunch of them. If we go to View, we can go to Design View, and now we can label our table. And we'll label it parking spots, and we'll click OK. And now you can see we have a new table. And here we're going to affiliate this with the employee number like we did before. And who has what. And this is actually going to be a number. In field 1, we're going to have spot location. And in field 2, or actually in field 1, we're going to have the spot ID code. And in the next one, we'll have the spot location. And that would be text and text as well. So now we can save this. We're going to go back to datasheet view. So now you can see that we have our spots. So now I can save this. I can close this. One thing we forgot to do was go in and remove that primary key. So we're going to go ahead and go back into it and click on Design View. And from here we can remove that primary key and we can see that it's been removed. And yes, we want to save it. And now we're going to want to pull this out to see if we can build some kind of a relationship with it. So I'm just grabbing a hold of it and I'm pulling it out. And we are going to do direct relationships. And we can just put that right on top. And this information looks good. And we'll hit create new. And on the left table, 2 employees. It says I'm not able to do this. We want the spot ID and the employee number. Okay, well it says I have one too many of a relationship and it has to be the same field. So, but I just wanted to show you again how you can create a table. We pulled that back out of there and so forth and so on. We're going to save this and we are going to close it. But now we're ready to actually end our database altogether. So we're going to go up to File and we're going to save this database as, and we're going to name it our electronics. And we're actually going to just throw that on the desktop and keep it there. That's where I'm going to put it. You can put yours wherever you would like. And I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to close out of all this. And here is my electronics file that I just put up there. And this would be the one that we just created together. So you can see I've got my electronics, my employees, and my parking spots. So congratulations, you made it through it. You are now a Microsoft Basic Access Pro. Definitely send me those databases. If you get them all done and ready, you can send those to bgaff@ppl.lib.in.us.
Well, all right, you did it. It's all over. Take a deep breath. You created a database and you did it all by yourself. Make sure you want to listen for that secret code to get credit for taking the class. It's in here for the computer class pass. You can email it to me. You can call me. Just come stop by and see me. Hey, and don't forget that we've got those one-on-one appointments, and they're absolutely free to you. They don't cost you anything, and we do them here at the library. So take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. It's all over. You did a fantastic job. If you have any more questions about Access or any of the stream classes, please do not hesitate to call me. That is what I am here for. Thanks again for being a part of Microsoft Access Basic. Thank you to the following websites for their information and their pictures. If it was not for these particular websites, we would not have been able to have this class today. So I want to take a personal thank you to all of the following websites.